Hey everybody, Stinky here with a new replay and commentary. This is a Demonology solo shuffle lobby, 2700 rating, from the point of view of a Demonology lock against 3 melee, a Windwalker and 2 ret. Both Windwalker and ret are extremely strong in today's meta. This is recorded just a few days ago during the latter half of Season 2 of The War Within. For most of the season, melee has been pretty strong throughout, especially Arms Warriors. However, in the latest balancing patch, Arms Warriors received a little bit of a nerf, which opened up the meta quite a bit. So in the last couple weeks, we've seen way more variety in solo shuffle compositions, way more casters. I've seen a lot more warlocks as well. They got a bit of a buff to their tankiness. And with Season 3 just around the corner, and with the public test realm showing warlocks getting a lot of buffs to their tier sets and demonology in particular, things are definitely looking up for warlocks. It's actually a great time to start learning the class and getting ready for the next season. I've had a lot of new and returning players dropping by my stream, twitch.tv/smellystinky. I've been streaming a ton, high level, rank 1, blitz, solo shuffle, arenas, all 3 warlock specs. Come check it out, ask me questions if you have any. Anyway, let's dive right into this replay. First thing I'll mention is I had technical difficulties the first game of this 6-game lobby, so this is the second game, but the first looked just like this. Same thing. I'm a warlock. It's a triple melee lobby. I'm just getting chased down constantly, so this is me getting attacked all the time. I'm going to show you how I deal with it. Lesson number 1, kite less, cast more. So this is my general philosophy when I play Demonology. I'm planting my feet, I'm casting in their faces. See, I fake cast a fear, and I get a precog. So I can free cast right in front of them. There's nothing they can do. Precognition is a 4-second buff, immunity to crowd control, immunity to further kicks. My team's under a lot of fire, but we get our defensive cooldowns out. I get a fear on the healer, and now it's a race to the finish line. And our use of cooldowns is just enough to get the kill. And if you look at the ability team tracker to the left, you can see we went through basically every cooldown we had available. Believe it or not, that's a very good sign. One of the most common mistakes I see at lower ratings or for players who are newer to the game is that they simply end a lot of rounds of solo shuffle, especially when they lose, without using all of their cooldowns. Now, this doesn't mean that you just spam your cooldowns right at the start of the match. It's just a way that you might be able to improve your gameplay. If you notice you're ending a lot of rounds without having used every single defensive cooldown, then you need to figure out, how do I use more of them? How do I weave more of them into my gameplay? It's a lot easier to back away from overusing cooldowns than it is to learn to use them in the first place. So err on the side of overusing cooldowns, because especially in solo shuffle, it's just so chaotic, so fast-paced. Here we have a standard opener. I lay my gate, I lay my port, I move forward into the center of the map because I want to take control of the positioning. Now, the other team has kind of adapted. After the first 2 rounds, they've chased after me to very little success. So now it seems like they're trying to control me and chase after my healer, chase after my ret. When you're in this position and you have the opportunity to free cast, you have a single job, and that is to be unignorable. You need to do so much damage and so much crowd control, so much CC, that the other team simply cannot afford to leave you alone. So that's what I'm doing. I'm sitting here doing a full PvE rotation while weaving in fears on the other DPS, while weaving in fears on the healer. I'm even casting Shadow Bolt, which is a rare cast in a solo shuffle lobby. That just means I'm doing so much damage, generating so many shards, that I'm starting to become unignorable. And here, they've started to turn on me. From the point of view of a demo lock, this is a good thing. I want to relieve pressure from the rest of my team, because I'm still going to do a lot of damage. My pets are still whacking away even when I'm getting stunned and attacked and searing glared. My pets do a lot of my damage, and they cannot stop that damage. So they turned on me, but my game plan is still the same. I'm going to be in the center, where I can still port if I get in a lot of danger, but this lets my healer play safely near my port, and the red on my team is positioned in the middle so he can do a lot of damage while also CCing the enemy healer. Windwalker's doing a ton of damage. They do a little extra damage because they're hitting my pets too, but Windwalker is a very strong class right now. This is a dangerous moment. They've popped a lot of damage cooldowns. They got some CC on my healer. So I'm lucky to get a bop here. That's pretty huge. That saves me from having to use my biggest defensive cooldown, which is Unending Resolve. I need that for later. The game has been going pretty poorly, actually. The Windwalker's way out damaging us, but the turning point is when I got a full fear on the healer. That alleviates some offensive pressure because they have to peel, And here comes my Grimoire Felguard. This is a huge damage cooldown for a Demo lock. So I also pop my wall. This lets me free cast because I can't be interrupted during Unending Resolve. And my Grimoire Felguard is doing a ton of damage. So the Blessing of Protection saves the monk from the kill here. However, I have one more big cooldown coming up. You might think it's Demonic Tyrant, but it's actually called Fellord. Fellord is the #1 most important cooldown you need to use against double melee teams. I used it earlier in the match. It helps save a lot of pressure. But you can see here, it's just chain stunning. Stun, stun, stun on the enemy team. So while he's up, I just stay within his circle. I can free cast in here. They either have to leave me alone and let me free cast, or they have to deal with the stuns. It's awesome. At this point, we are way ahead. We still have Lay on Hands, we still have Bops, we still have a lot of defensive cooldowns, and they are just out of steam. I do want to emphasize here that Call Fellord, I don't actually see everyone taking it, and Demo locks, you gotta take it. It's so good against melee. Even if there's just one melee, maybe if it's just a ret, you can skip it, but against warriors, demon hunters, rogues, ferals, any sort of melee that likes to stick right on you and do a bunch of damage, this will force them into a weird decision. Like, do they leave you alone and let you free cast for the duration of the Fellord, or do they still go after you and just deal with the stuns? But you can still kind of free cast in the Fellord because he stuns them and prevents them from interrupting you. Huge cooldown. Highly recommend using it as often as possible. So this is a weird matchup, double ret and holy pally. So that's a lot of paladin things, and this is very confusing. Honestly, I get confused even at the highest levels of play. I can't tell which ret is which. I can't tell which one has used which cooldowns. It's crazy, but it's a lot of fun because you know what? It's a lot of pink. We like pink. It's almost Valentine's Day, right? Wait, did I miss Valentine's Day? But you can see this is a very tough matchup for us because they have 3 Searing Glares. They've got a lot of interrupts, a lot of defensive cooldowns. This is really tough. I got interrupted on my Demonic Tyrant, which means that I didn't get to extend my first Felguard. So I'm doing basically less damage than anybody else. The Holy Pally does almost as much damage as I do. But the goal here is simply to outlast, because we have one thing that the enemy team doesn't, and that's Mortal Strike. For those who are new, Mortal Strike means it's a healing debuff effect. So when a target is hit with Mortal Strike or an MS effect, they receive less healing. This means that over time, they're simply harder and harder to heal, and there's a lot of pressure. Only a handful of classes have it: rogues, warriors, demon hunters. You'll notice that a lot of melee have it, hunters have it, but paladins don't. And importantly, demonology locks do have Mortal Strike through their pet. It's called Legion Strike. Whenever it hits somebody, they take 20% less healing. It has a lot of uptime. So my team is effectively doing 20% more damage than shows on the details damage meter below. That's great. So our goal is simply to survive. We can't burst anybody down. They have a lot of defensive cooldowns. Bob, Divine Shield, Lay on Hands. But we can win with constant pressure, constant damage. My goal is simply to keep as many imps down as possible, try and get through the cooldowns, and hopefully land a kill later in the game when we have our damage cooldowns lining up again. Here I ported and I had a choice. I could have tried to play really defensively, run around the pillar, run away, but instead, you know what I did? I pulled out a Tyrant and I went on the offense. This is kind of how I play. I don't know if it's the best and most effective way of playing, but it does seem to work. And if you're finding you're having trouble against melee and you're kiting a lot, you're trying to get away, it may be worth experimenting and just simply charging at them like I do here. Playing this way, you can catch a lot of people off guard, get a lot of casts off. I've got a billion imps. Now this is scary because the healer gets hodged. I'm taking a lot of damage, but you know what's about to come up? Grimoire Felguard. I use it as soon as it's off cooldown. It stuns the target I'm trying to kill, does a lot of damage, and we clean things up. So I make this point quite often, but it's still something I want to continue emphasizing because Demonology does not play the same way that other casters do. If you're a Boomkin or a Mage or an Ellie Shaman, you can kite and do a ton of damage because you're all instant casts. Demonology simply has to plant their feet, cast a lot of Hand of Gul'dan's, Fears, things that just require sitting and casting, and it's often more effective to do that in the open than it is behind a pillar. And I think this is especially true when you're facing melee. If you're facing casters, you might need to play line of sight a little bit more, but against melee, you want to be in the open because you want to make your healer feel safe. They can play it by the pillar. And by playing in the open, you always have the option of pulling melee behind a pillar strategically rather than just always kiting away. They won't follow you then. At the start of the 5th round, everyone is popping their cooldowns right away. It's important to do this. If you don't pop your cooldowns and your enemies do, you have a huge disadvantage in terms of power, and you're going to have to use defensive cooldowns, and you're never really going to apply any offensive pressure. So for me, that means getting my Grimoire Felguard out along with the Tyrant, Trying to get as many pets as you can too, but you know, when you have 2 melee on you, getting just even 1 or 2 hand cooldowns out is a success, I think. Here I fake casted Fear, Paladin missed their kick, and I got the precognition buff, 4 seconds of immunity, I get to Fear, and then I lay Fellord. Fellord again is amazing cooldown. I stand inside that circle, I can cast spells, it keeps stunning the enemies, it actually does a decent amount of damage too. And suddenly we're on the offense, they're using defensive cooldowns, they have to bubble here I think, yep, bubble from the healer. So the goal again is just to keep applying pressure, keep it up. We've gotten a bunch of their defensive cooldowns, so we don't want to let them catch up here. I fake cast, get precog, and I start casting Hand Dance, getting a lot of damage out. And because I've been fake casting a lot, I can mix in a few hard casts. So there, I just full feared right in front of the monk. He could have kicked me, but he didn't because he thought I might have been fake casting. Got a fear in the pally. Again, keeping pressure rolling. They hit me super hard here, so I use my Unending Resolve, my biggest defensive cooldown. I simply just don't want to lose at this point when we've been playing so well. So even though we overlapped a few cooldowns there, it doesn't matter. This is solo shuffle. Overlapping of cooldowns is going to happen no matter what. There's no coordination. So we're still in a good spot here. If you see on the imp counter, I've got over 10 imps out. That's a lot, actually, when I have 2 melee on me. And when you have a lot of imps, it's kind of like a snowball effect. You have a lot of damage rolling, and you get a lot of demonic cores from the imps. Demonic cores translate into damage and more shards, which translate into more imps. It's a virtuous cycle, or demonic cycle, whatever. So we're way ahead here on pressure and cooldowns. Not on damage if you look at the damage meter, but we just have a lot of effective damage. I'm still getting things like fears out, even though they're both training me down. And here, my goal is to get precog. I get kicked, that's okay, in shadow. I can still cast other stuff, and I fake my next cast, get precog. I also get bopped, so I'm really just free casting here. This is so much pressure with my Grimoire Felguard now up too. Many of your kills in solo shuffle will be associated with your second Grimoire Felguard. At the 2-minute mark, there's a lot of dampening too, so there's a lot of healing reduction. It's really hard for this healer to catch up at this point. We keep the damage rolling, we keep on pressuring, use every cooldown as it comes up. And look at that, my favorite cooldown of all is coming right back now. Fellord. And kill. After a round, it's always helpful to think about how did that go? Did it go well the whole time? Did it go well just part of it? Were parts of it very challenging? If so, why and when? If I had to summarize the last round, it was that we were winning consistently the entire round. We had more pressure, less damage, but more pressure, more CC, and just a lot better play. The one sketchy moment was when I got hit with a lot of damage all at the same time. I nearly died, but I used Unending Resolve then. Personally, I think that's the best way to use Wall. You only get to use it once in a round, and so you want to use it reactively. Sometimes people will use it proactively to try and land a kill. I actually do that sometimes, but usually your best serve, even in a game when you're winning quite heavily, you need it to save yourself in a hairy moment because it's simply hard to predict when a lot of damage is coming your way. Solo shuffle, and especially this patch, this season, damage is super spiky. I've been criticized before for not using Wall defensively while at high health before the damage comes in, but I tend to think that it's actually better to use Wall reactively at low health. The sweet spot for it is somewhere around 30 to 50%, and I think that's better because you really have to use it as a last resort when your healer CC'd and you have no other options left. It'll save you a lot of rounds when you use it that way. On to the final round, and just like the previous round, I want to apply consistent pressure, just solid pressure through damage and control. Here I can see both kicks are on cooldown, so I get a fear off. The monk's kick is about to become available, so I use fear to try and bait the kick. He doesn't kick, so I get the fear off. A great result. I port for the buff. Abyss Walker makes me tankier, also gives me space to get a coil out, a fear, Hand Gul'dan, Demon Bolt. It's a lot of spells I get just from porting, even though I'm not really kiting that far. The Evoker Rescue is pretty helpful here. I can cast while being rescued, and then when I see the monk start to charge in, I cancel my cast, I get precog. So I'm free casting, I get Shadow Fury, Fear. They're popping basically every cooldown just to survive. I get away, still casting. There's a Bop, Divine Shield. But then they're looking for opportunities to turn the tide, so they get some CC on my healer during their immunities. I can't stop that. They follow up the Repentance with a stun, and so I use my Unending Resolve. This is my last resort, so this is kind of a hairy moment. Their damage cooldowns, they come back before mine, so I don't have anything here. I have no Wall, no Grimoire Felguard, no Fellord. I gateway, I'm just trying to survive. I need to get to my own 2-minute cooldowns. So I amp Curse of Weakness, the monk. He can't crit. That's a huge damage reduction for him. I use my axe toss on the monk. Again, I'm just trying to reduce damage to survive. And then I managed to get away. And here comes my Grimoire Felguard. So this is my big moment. I've got my Felguard out. I'm doing as much damage as possible. We are solidly in the late game. There's a lot of dampening. It's really hard to heal. And they're basically tapped on defensive cooldowns at this point. And look at that, Fel Lord. It always lines up really nicely with your Felguard. So against double melee teams, this is a lot of pressure. The little mini stuns from the Fel Lord throw off their kick timings. You can get a lot of extra casts off, and they just cannot heal through it at this point. Any one of them is a good target, and there you go. 6-0, 2800 game against triple melee. I hope you enjoyed the replay. I'm streaming quite often these days. You can catch me on twitch.tv/smellystinky, and I'll keep posting videos and guides here on YouTube. If you like what you see, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, and I will see you all very soon in the arenas, in shuffles and blitzes, and on stream. Thanks all.